All right, another Warhammer World Championship best of 5 between my boy Stratgame and Odium Shidoku. Shidoku is back. Hey Shidoku, good to see you back. Rooting for Stratgame, member of the clan I'm also a part of. Just a good friendly dude who's supported me a lot over the years. So let's go Stratgame, hope you win. But I won't let that affect my casting. I will not be unfair and biased. I will be perfectly neutral as usual. For Stratgame on the Greenskins, my microphone's all screwed up. Oh no! Oh no! Alright, fixed it. Maybe? Yes. Hi. Stratgame on the Greenskins, Grom the Paunch for a bit of self-regeneration against the Warriors of Chaos. Doesn't want to get sniped out too easily. Needs that regen. And then Great Uns is here, and Language of the Boys for some immune to psychology. We have an Orc Shaman with Here We Go and Fists of Gork, Acid Burpa, Colossus Swink, ROR, and then a bunch of Orc Boarboy and Boarboy Biggins on the back line. Goblin Spear front line, a couple Orc RR Boys, including Rugland's Armored Orcs, and we do have some Skirmish Cav, a Spider Rider, and Morgo's Mangy Marauders for some poison and armor-piercing mobility. And then aside for Shidoku and his Warriors of Chaos, Marauder Horsemen, Rotting Riders, Pleasure Guard, Champions of Slaanesh, and then a bunch of Marauders, more Hellstriders, and a Zazel with Phantasmagoria and Demon Blade for double leadership debuffs. I get it. Greenskins are a low leadership faction. If you can catch them in some compromising positions, you get a lot of damage out. Rotting Rider's gonna have to be careful. They can do a lot of work in a bump and grind fight, but I don't know. I know they're a good unit. This isn't to say they're a bad unit, but they're one of those units that like can be a little jank sometimes. Like their models can just not collide correctly or not do a lot of damage, and like 4 or 5 models will be in the middle of the melee while the rest just kind of stand around outside of it like idiots. So I do hope that Shidoku keeps a good eye on his Rotting Riders and make sure that they are in advantageous matchups. If they're not, then they can take a lot of damage, and they're just so expensive if they get sacrificed and died. It's just not good. Greenskin's gonna take the point. Seems like Shidoku wants to skirmish for a bit, so the Greenskin's gonna at least put that timer on him, make sure he has to engage in the near future. And Shidoku just kind of keeps creeping up. These Rotting Riders and Hellstriders getting a little closer with every rotation of the armies. But Stratgame is not helpless against the skirmishing ways. He does have foot archers, which along with artillery can be the counter to skirmish cavalry with almost twice the range and more DPS. Foot archers are generally pretty good against cavalry, and yeah, that does force Shidoku to engage, because every time he skirmishes around, he's just getting shot with archers. Nice stuff, Phantasmagoria to hold the Boar Boys in place and make sure they can't counter his charge. And then the leadership debuffs, he is going to jump in with his Demon Blade as well. Language of the Boys, however, prevents terror routes and is going to keep the Orc Boar Boys and Boar Boy Biggins in this. The Great Uns is here, gives them a bunch of melee attack and leadership, and the archers are firing in. So Shidoku has committed, and the early engagement was good, but can it last? Can he hold up in the long grind as the Greenskins try and build up a wall? That would be very helpful for them right now. The Acid Burpa is running through the back line of the Warriors of Chaos. Half health to Marauder, took a little bit off the Hellstriders, but back once again. We got to keep an eye on this Azazel versus Grom fight. Orc Biggins holding an Orc Boar Boy is thinking about leaving with Grom departing. Language of the Boys will go with him, and it will probably terror out soon. So there it goes. As soon as Grom leaves, so do they. Orc Boar Boys catch the Pleasure Guard, and there goes a Wah, meaning that Orc Boar Boy is going to trade way up versus the Pleasure Guard during the course of that Wah. Very good for them. The other Boar Boys hold and push back the force of the Warriors of Chaos. So a little concerning for the Warriors of Chaos here. That initial engagement looked good, but the Greenskins' spine did not break, and now they got a Wah. Wall will be wearing off soon. There it goes, but the second one will charge up quite quickly as long as the Greenskins can stay in melee combat. Most Greenskin games, they only get 2 Waws throughout the course of it, but they get them quite quickly. And the Warriors of Chaos not looking too out on the balance of power. The Rotting Riders are just getting dragged down like I worried about at the start of the game. The Pleasure Guard have been very successfully countercharged, and they've taken so much damage now. They are unbreakable, but they're not unkillable as they fall below 1,000 HP. Here we go down on this central main blob fight. Rotting Rider's going to rout, and if they rout, they take their one-time use damage resistance with them. It breaks, like Lewin's Oath to the Lady. If he routs, he just loses that constant regeneration, so they have lost their damage resistance. Even if they rally, they will be squishier. Pleasure Guard fighting to the last man against various archers, but he is now alone as the Orc's going to turn towards him and try to get a couple shots down. A little bit of betrayal as Ruglin's Armored Orcs' arrows go wide and hit their brethren, as last of the Pleasure Guard continues to just be a nuisance. The Acid Burpa is running through things. Rotting Riders still trying to rout away. Grom is after them. Greenskins have handedly taken game 1 in less than 5 minutes. Army losses is coming soon. I don't see a whole lot Shidoku can do. Azazel has not been able to find the picks he wanted. The Greenskins stayed tight. They didn't really leave their formation too much, so he couldn't find a good place to get a net and like a terror route down and then route them off the map or anything. Greenskins held together, and Grom especially with his various leadership buffs as long as he is nearby, really saved their bacon. Ha! Boar boys, bacon! Anyway, really saved their bacon on that flank. I think only 1 out of 4 Boar Boys routed in that main engagement Shidoku took on the right flank over here, which was kind of nutty, but immune to psychology will do that. Another Wa is out. It's a celebration Wa, because certainly they're going to win the game in the duration of this Wa. 10 seconds left, and I just don't see the Warriors of Chaos having 10 seconds left in them before they get army lost here. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Wow, they held. All right, good for you guys. Phantasmagoria and Discourage from Azazel's Demon Sword are going to maybe route the Boar Boy Biggins, but once again, Grom the Paunch is here with his leadership buffs. They go nowhere, and Shidoku throws in the towel. For Stratgame, Caster just stayed safe and threw out combat buffs. Solid. Goblins did fine. Archers did very well. Boar Boys, more mixed on the value, but they were mostly there to block and peel and those kinds of things. Skirmish Cav did okay. The Esburpa did very well. For Shidoku is back. As we mentioned in-game, Azazel had a really hard time leveraging any advantage anywhere, and then his Marauders and Hellstriders got cooked. 400 value on the Rotting Riders is also pretty tough. Skirmish Cav didn't get a lot of value either. It was a GG. Strat off to a good start. Game 2, we've got some Khorne. Don't see a lot of Khorne in tournaments these days. I've been playing them a bit just for fun. I think they're fun, but yeah, apparently they're not that strong in the meta right now. But versus Norska, I could see it. Not a ton of range tools to run away. You know you're most likely going to get a fight, and Khorne does love a good scrap. For the Khorne side, we have triple Chaos Fury, 3 Marauder Horsemen with their throwing axes, then Khorne Gores and Marauders for a front line, Chaos Knight of Khorne, Skull Taker on his chariot for that self-healing and AoE buffing of his troops. Then we have another Blood Shrine of Khorne for more buffs, and Scylla Onfengrim with his AoE Rampage Explosion. On the other side for Norska, a lot of skirmish in the Marauder Horsemen and Horse Masters, Riders of the Mighty Serpent as well, so 6 skirmish cav. Couple Norskan Ice Wolves and Skin Wolves. We do have the Soul Crusher buffing up a frontline of Marauders. Great Shaman Sorcerer of Metal with just Final Transmutation, and then a Famir Noble. Almost never see this unit. And he didn't bring any of his AoE buffs. He is just a anti-large, armor-piercing, magic damage duelist guy. All alone is the Famir. Shidoku pretty clearly wants to skirmish in the early game. Khorne is quite used to this, so either Strat is going to have to come up with some sneaky schemes to catch those skirmishers, or he's going to have to ignore them and advance aggressively upon the Marauder frontline and just force a frontline engagement. But this is one of the struggles of Khorne, is they do get kited by a lot of factions. They hate it. And the Riders of the Mighty Serpent and the other Marauder Horsemen are going to fall back, push away. Chaos Knights lurking close to the Marauder Horsemen, at least taxing Shidoku's micro, making sure he's paying enough attention to dodge that heavy cav. And while he is, it looks like we do get engagement. The Marauder Horsemen of Khorne with their throwing axes are just trying to go into melee, and if you run away, they're going to throw their throwing axes at your back. I mean, obviously your skirmish cav can hit them too, but they just want to get something going. Looks like we do have a good pick. Very low leadership on 2 Marauder Horsemen, but they get one of them to actually route. And now Skin Wolves and the Soul Crusher are coming, but this could be a big win for Khorne. If they pull some of their resources over here, this is a big fight that Shidoku doesn't want to happen. Shidoku wants to delay any fight for as long as he can and get those skirmishers to get the good value, but trying to defend his skirmishers forced a fight. Scylla is running in. I expect to see his Explosion Rampage very soon, as Skull Taker and the Blood Shrine are here to get some extra damage out as well. And the mobility tools are nearby. Stratgame's 3 skirmish cav are all able to shoot at the Skull Crusher, which the Soul Crusher, which could be a lot of damage value. Marauder Horsemen did go off the map, and these Skin Wolves are having a pretty bad time. Syla has not popped his Rampage in this blob fight, which makes me think he already did it. Otherwise, I don't know why he wouldn't do it right now. This is an opportune time. Shidoku is way too blobbed up with skirmish cav. That's just like objectively a mistake, and they're trying to run away now. There's overlapping circles of everything, so I don't actually know what's happening. I know a Final Transmutation hit all 3 of Khorne's single entities, so that's a very good cast. But yeah, no Rampage out from Syla. He must have burned it in the front line, but I just don't think that was worth it. Of course, Strat couldn't have predicted he would get a beautiful blob like that he could have hit and then rampaged, but I thought he was bringing the Rampage to force skirmish elements or mobility elements to stay in a melee fight they were losing. I didn't think he used it. I didn't think he brought it to just nuke some Marauders real quick, so maybe a little bit of lax discipline on ability spending there from Strat could have cost him a little bit of extra damage value. As the game is going, Khorne is slightly up on the balance power, or it is 50-50. It can be kind of hard to tell. Many more melee fights are being forced than Shidoku wanted. He's not getting the game he planned out for. His skirmish cavalry have gotten a decent amount of ammo off here and there, but he pretty much wanted no engagement to happen until he was out of ammunition. That's just not how the game went. Strat got some good picks. The good picks led Norska to overcommit to try and save them. Overcommitting to try and save them led to more picks, on and on and on, and then just a bunch of melee fights happen. Khorne's pulling ahead on the balance of power. The Soul Crusher is about to rout Skull Crushers. Don't know why I even thought there's Skull Crushers. Skin Wolves routing off the map. I don't know if Norska is going to commit the resources to chase them. It looks like the Furies are just going to go elsewhere. They're just going to harass the skirmish cavalry with the last of their HP. I don't know what's the correct decision. I don't know whether chasing the Skin Wolves or not. I know chasing the Soul Crusher off the battlefield probably would have been good. We see some skirmish cav trying to do it now, but he has already rallied, so I wonder if they'll just sit back and throw axes at him. But once again, Norska's throwing hands where they have no business throwing hands. Skirmish cavalry once again ending up in melee with the Khorne skirmish cavalry, and the Marauder Horsemen of Khorne have some pretty crazy melee stats if left to their own devices. 44 weapon strength for a skirmish cav is quite a lot. 24 on the other side, so yeah, quite a lot more damage. Norskan Ice Wolves trying to pressure the throwing axes away as the throwing axes harass the Skull Crusher in rage, giving him 40% damage resistance as the Riders of the Mighty Serpent once again end up in a bit of melee, but they are using themselves as a rear guard action for the other Marauder Horsemen, and they do rout off the Marauder Horsemen of Khorne, so that is good for the skirmish cavalry. Soul Crusher is still in the fight, still almost 3,000 HP. Skull Taker only has 4,000 HP, and he has considerably higher percentage, so the Mammoth's health bar making things look a little more dire than they could be, though. Now it's dire. Down to 1,000. He is going to rout for the second time. Might even die here. And without him, we'll lose the Soul Crusher buff. No, I thought he had AoE buffs, but I guess not. Another beautiful final transmutation down from Shidoku, though, hits all 3 of the single entities again. Strat does get his Blood Shrine out, and it's going to start regenerating in a different melee fight. Syla also gets away, and it was just an undercast, but still a good undercast. What's your value at, Chief? 1,300? Not terrible. Khorne does have good spell resistance, so his final transes aren't as punishing as they would be on other factions. Shaman Sorcerer just going to try and commit to the fight. Doesn't want to surrender without participating in the battle, but it is too little too late for his forces. We have a full health Caster Lord and a couple Marauders. That is it versus all these Khorne guys. And you can see the balance of power is going to rocket down as this guy takes damage, because he's so much of their balance of power being held up, but the game doesn't properly realize that he's going to get his ass handed to him in melee as Syla just bodies him. It's going to be army losses, and Stratgame up 2-0. Bringing Khorne to that win. Nice job, Strat. Shidoku gonna have to mount the reverse sweep to stay in this tournament. Needs to win 3 in a row. Stratgame, his Marauder Horseman skirmish cav did very well. His Furies did their jobs. The Blood Shrine did fine. Skulltaker and Syla did fine. Premier Noble for Shidoku only got 130 value. I don't see what killed him, but clearly something murdered his ass, because he only got 137 value and he was nearly dead. Shaman Sorcerer did fine. Marauders got crushed by their Khorne counterparts. Skirmish Cavalry, mixed value. Overall, pretty decent, but they needed to do a lot more to win this game. Skin Wolves struggled a bit. Norskan Ice Wolves did fine. Soul Crusher did okay. This happens so much this tournament with specifically Norska. There have been other factions like Dark Elves or Wood Elves where players will just trade it, but like, I swear there have been 5 or 6 of the last 10 series I've cast where one player plays Norska and then the other one's like, all right, my turn. I know Norska's popular, but it's just weird that they always do it back to back. It's never a couple games apart. And it wasn't the first game either, right? It was games 2 and 3. Weird. All right, Norska's in for Strat. For Shidoku on Kislev, he's got to win this to stay in the game. We have Wing Lancers and Griffin Legion backing up Kossovite Dervishes and Dervishes with bows. A lot of cavalry. 4 Kislevite Warriors and an Ice Witch of Tempest. Hawks of Mishka and Swiftwing. Holy shit, somebody's bringing Swiftwing. That's crazy. That is crazy. That, in my mind, is one of the literal worst spells in the game, so good luck to him, but I think that thing sucks. For Strat, a frontline of Marauder Bearmen and the Brutes of the Hound with some other Marauder Berserkers. We have Skin Wolves, Norskan Ice Wolves, Followers of the Great Eagle, Marauder Chariot Arwar, a Shaman Sorcerer of Fire with Burning Head, and a Chaos Frost Dragon. Strat does not have the best build to deal with what Kislev brought here. Too many infantry, which, like, you can't know before you load in, but yeah, this many infantry versus this much cav is going to be quite a struggle. So many infantry. I think he legitimately has 8. Yeah, 5 Bearmen, a Spearman, and 2 Berserkers, so 8 infantry. Cav are going to cycle charge pretty effectively. Swiftwing giving them extra speed as they catch the Norskan Ice Wolves. Skin Wolves are going to jump back in, and Swiftwing is just countering out the Frost Bites. These guys could disengage, and they're going to, rather than being slowed down significantly by the Ice Wolves. Chilling Aura plus Frostbite on the Winged Lancers, however. Strat is going to slow down the Winged Lancers quite a lot. Hawks and Mishka is out to try and help the Kossovite Dervishes. The Discouraged could save them, as the Norskan Ice Wolves are going to abandon the fight. But the Dervishes have already popped by our blood, and these other Winged Lancers just charge straight into their doom. So Strat getting a very good pick on the top side of this fight. In the center, Marauder Bearmen have reached the Kislevite Warriors, and on the flanks, the poor Marauder Spearman was picked off by a lot of heavy cav. Griffin Legion, Kossovite Dervishes, and Winged Lancers working together to pick those guys off. On the backfield, Marauder Berserkers also getting charged by Winged Lancers, and in come the Rohirrim, once again running down those Berserkers. We're just trying to get any damage out they can before the cavalry run them down, because once they rout, they're not going to be able to come back. Too much cav. So we lost a Dervish, we lost a Winged Lancer on this top side. The Dervish is going to rally, but the Norskan Ice Wolves have now sunk their teeth into the Horse Archers, getting good damage out onto them. So Strat is meticulously taking out anybody he can get his fangs on. And speaking of which, he has found more Winged Lancers to slow down. Slowing them down in the Brutes of the Hound on top of Skin Wolves can be pretty good, but so many units coming in. I wonder if a Burning Head is going to rip through here soon and clear out some of these Kislevite Warriors, but the dogs are now routing, leaving the Skin Wolves and the Brutes of the Hound to fight on alone. Chaos Frost Dragon coming over to say hello is going to jump down, contribute its double slows to the area, maybe help the Skin Wolves keep on the Griffin Legion if they even want to, though it seems like the Skin Wolves want out of this. Bounce power is about 50-50, and a Burning Head miscast from the Great Shaman Sorcerer. I know that there's been a bug about that sometimes if you try and like overcast it or do something weird with your mouse. I forget the details, but it can just cast off of your own guy. So it goes nowhere near the Kislevite Warriors he most certainly was trying to hit with it. Now, Brutes of the Hound should be able to brutalize some Kislevite Warriors. So it's not like he needed to kill them to win this game, but obviously you don't want to just whiff spells for no reason, right? Hawks of Mishka going down once again, trying to rout off the dogs and the Marauder Bearmen. And in the distance, we did have some overcommitment from a couple mobility units. They shattered something, but kept chasing it until it was literally off the map. But he can't be everywhere at once. His focus can't be on every unit everywhere. Understandable mistake. Brutes of the Hound rampage wears off. They're going to continue fighting to the very end. They are unbreakable. But yeah, Strat really wanted that Burning Head to work correctly, not just go off of his character, because I see 2 Kislevite Warriors over there that would have been smoked by it if that's where he was aiming. Elsewhere, it could have helped these Bearmen just win a little faster. Bounce power shifting against the Norskins, and I tend to agree. Chaos Frost Dragon's been stuck on the ground for most of the game. Hasn't been able to get a ton of value, I don't think. 620, yeah, not what they would like. And in comes the Snow Leopard. Probably to pounce on the Frost Dragon, maybe the Caster Lord, but I would like the Frost Dragon. Just more guaranteed hits. And make sure it can't get off the ground, though. A little slow on the orders for the Snow Leopard. It did get summoned and AFK'd briefly as the Griffin Legion are dying. Now the Snow Leopard is activated. It looks like he is going after the Caster Lord, which is a fine target. I think like a terrible target would be the Marauders, right? But I would prefer he finish off the dragon rather than starting to pivot onto the Marauder Lord. Frost Dragon is routing. Now these Dervishes are going to try and keep it on the ground, where now the Leopard attacking the Shaman Sorcerer is good. trying to get more damage on him. Bounce Power moves further and further away from Norska. We have some armored Skin Wolves helping Norskan Ice Wolves finish off a Griffin Legion and maybe counter-snipe the Ice Witch of Tempest to try and keep Norska in this game. I don't know if even killing the Caster Lord does enough, though, as Shidoku Skirmish Cav continue to fire, and they're going to let the Chaos Frost Dragon rally. No, Wing Lancers are going to follow it off the map. Okay, I thought Skirmish Cav would try and do that because they can at least shoot at it. But yeah, big pick for Norska to try and stay in this game is surrounding and massacring the Ice Witch of Tempest. She was full HP. She's lost half of it in this surround, and it's continuing to get worse and worse. Kislevite warriors trying to run to her aid. These ones do not have Byar Bloods. They could just naturally rout. A Hawks of Mishka is out, and a big cavalry charge plus the Hawks should be plenty to get the dogs a routing here. A Burning Head to desperately try and save the situation from Stratgame. It will do some decent damage on the lightly armored horse archers, but it's not going to be enough, I don't think. The Hawks does its job, routs the Skin Wolves, routs the Norskan Ice Wolves, does no friendly fire damage whatsoever. Chaos Frost Dragon does come back for Norska, but it comes back just to watch its army leave it, most likely, as the Chariots and the Lord are stuck in a pile of Kislevite horsemen. They're not going anywhere. Halberds are chopping down the Great Shaman Sorcerer of Fire. It's probably going to be army losses very soon here. There they go. Shidoku stays in the series, gets on the board against Stratgame with his Kislev. For Norska, 0-2 in the series. Marauder, Bearmen did okay. Berserkers did okay. Chariot did all right. Dogs did pretty decently well. Skin Wolves did okay. Chaos Frost Dragon really struggled, though, and so did the Lord. For Shidoku, his Lord did fine. Saw a couple good Hawks route off dogs. His Cavalry did great, however. Skirmish Cav did well, but his Heavy Cav really carried. Griffin Legions did a lot of damage value, so that's quite nice. GG's, see you all in Game 4. Game 4 is Ogres versus Slaanesh. Honestly, a grudge match, because early Warhammer 3, when Warhammer 3 came out and Slaanesh was horrible. So if you remember, Slaanesh and Khorne were both terrible on release, and like Nurgle was actually really good because there weren't that many ranged units in the game. Anyway, Ogres is one of the few matchups Slaanesh could actually deal with. So this has been a matchup as old as time. Slaanesh, with their leadership debuffs and abundance of anti-large, especially in their light cavalry, like to hunt down the Ogres, but the Ogres, with a lot of healing and tenacity, can usually stand up to Slaanesh and try and grind them down. So it's been a pretty even matchup. Like I said, when Slaanesh was terrible, this was one of the matchups they could take, but it doesn't mean they were like easy wins in it. It's just not horrible. Double Pleasure Seeker, 2 Hellstriders of Slaanesh, 2 Marauder Horsemen, one of which is the ROR, some Forsaken, some Devoted Marauders, and a Zazel with Demon Blade and Phantasmagoria like Game 1. But this time he's on his own roster, not the Warriors of Chaos. And aside for Strats Ogres, we have an Ogre Paymaster with Cash Cascade. And then Gold, Glorious Gold, and that's about it for his abilities. Blood Vultures, Iron Guts, Piggyback Riders, Noblar Flingers, Noblar Regulars, Ogre Bulls with dual weapons, and a Fire Belly, Burning Head, and Flaming Sword of Ruin. No Crushers, no Stormhorns, no Thunder Tusks to be found here, just good old-fashioned Ogres of various varieties on top of Noblars of various varieties. In comes the Phantasmagoria, trying to rout the Noblars nice and early, debuff their leadership enough that Azazel diving in with his Demon Blade can kill them off, and then the Ogres are in real trouble. Any Ogre unit suffers if it fights alone. Like, it just can't do it. Man-Eaters are terrible without Noblars supporting them. Iron Guts are terrible without Noblars supporting them. So targeting the Noblars was pretty smart, and we can see already that this Iron Gut is at half HP. As other Piggyback Riders and Noblars try and peel, the Pleasure Seekers are looking to get away from this situation. On the other side, Cash Cascade is down to help the Ogre Bulls fight back against the Forsaken. And that's going pretty well for them, as Pleasure Seekers may have overextended from Shidoku's side. They're losing about half their HP, and they're now trying to rear charge over to some Noblars where they can maybe get some healing off low leadership units as Hellstriders peel for them. Burning Head from the Fire Belly goes through the front line, and it is a rough start for Slaanesh. It does not appear to be getting any better, though. A Burning Head friendly fire does take out almost an entire Noblar. Good lord, it does not stop. It just keeps going. It just keeps going. It just keeps going, and it burns the Pleasure Seekers, maybe getting them to Demonic Instability Crumble, though no, not yet. They are going to hold for now. Ogres take an early lead on the Balance of Powers. Azazel is still trying to help rout off some of the Iron Guts. Hellstriders in the enemy backline. Pleasure Seekers in the enemy backline as well, routing off some things and now starting to surround the Firebelly. Maybe take him out after that heinous burning head killed everybody in its path. These Pleasure Seekers are just trying to heal up. Feasting on Fear is at 20% charge right now, so they are slowly healing, and their rear charge in the Iron Guts is going to do a good job. Azazel also routs the Firebelly, and at a snap of your fingers, the southern side of the fight falls apart for the Ogre Kingdoms and goes completely in Slaanesh's favor. Meanwhile, the top side is a disaster for Slaanesh. They lost the Pleasure Seekers, they've lost their Forsaken, so that is pretty brutal. Each side going to probably collect their winnings and regroup. I do expect to see Slaanesh just chase everything down on this bottom side, get as much army passive as they can, etc., 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 while Stratgame tries to reform his lines, but really doesn't have that many units on the north side that won. He has 2 healthy Iron Guts, an Ogre Paymaster, and a Piggyback Rider. A 3rd Iron Gut is still healthy on the south side, though it is getting beat up by Forsaken right now, and Slaanesh is just routing everything else off the map to get some army abilities up. Firebelly, where did you go? Did you die? I think he died. Looks like he died. So no casting left for the Ogre Kingdoms. No burning heads will be found this day, and there's still a good amount of skirmish cav, and that's actually a really concerning part for the Ogres right now, is without Noblar Flingers, without Noblar Trappers, and without your own mobility forces, these skirmish cav can get all of their ammunition off over the course of this game. There's nothing left that can threaten them, so Shidoku does want to slow this game down. Of course, chase down anything that you've already routed off, but then just let your skirmish cav do some work on those Iron Guts. Looks like he's not going to go for the slow play, however. He is going for it all right now. Narcissism nets the Ogre Paymaster on top of a Phantasmagoria that also nets him. And Azazel jumps in, immediately routing off these Noblars and Piggyback Riders to isolate the Ogres in the late game all on their own. A Meat Feast is going to heal up one of the Iron Guts. And then a Rampage Fascination on the Ogre Paymaster, so really just wants to keep him locked up without being able to use any abilities. And I wonder what the payoff for that is, because it doesn't look like he was leaving this fight regardless. Pleasure Seekers jump in onto the Iron Guts. Hellstriders now trying to reroute the units that are trying to rejoin the fight. It does not look like they'll be successful. There's too many Ogre units coming back, so the Hellstriders are going to get routed off once again, which means the Ogre Paymaster might get some reinforcements after all. Pleasure Seekers and Skirmish Cav all committing to the fight in melee alongside Azazel, but they're just not getting enough damage done on the Iron Guts, who are rallying around the Paymaster. Cash Cascades keeping everybody in this fight, and I think Slaanesh might have had an oopsie. Might have committed a little too early without skirmishing and pulling apart the enemy lines. Also got a little too greedy, didn't chase everybody off the maps. The Ogres are reforming. Because if these two skirmish cav had looped around and helped chase everybody off, and the Pleasure Seekers just disengaged and helped chase people off, chasing people off would heal the Pleasure Seekers, and the skirmish cav would just route things. And then the Ogre Paymaster, who's 1 Piggyback Rider and his 3 Iron Guts, can regroup. That's fine. Just take everybody else out and then shoot them for a while. It's not the most, like, engaging high octane gameplay, but it's smart to do when your opponent has no recourse against skirmish cav at this point. Phantasmagoria is down, once again lowering their leadership, but netting them in place. The Pleasure Seekers get a free charge on the netted Iron Guts. Skirmish Cavalry is firing in on the Iron Guts. Unable to finish them off, there's 1 healthy Iron Gut and then 2 incredibly low ones. The Ogre Paymaster is also quite healthy. Azazel is now taking up the role of chasing off random garbage in the background. So we have some devoted marauders returning to the scene of the crime. Slaanesh currently holds the point. I don't think it's going to come down to the point, one way or the other. Even if the skirmish cav back off and use all of their ammunition, it's not going to take 5 more minutes, so it doesn't matter. This is coming down to army losses through blood and treasure, one way or the other. Pleasure Seekers trying to cycle charge, not getting too much healing. The Ogres overall having decent leadership at this point with mostly Iron Guts left. They're a little more elite than your basic Ogre Bull. More skirmish cav is trying to fall back, though Shidoku's taking a lot of damage on his skirmish cav. A lot. Azazel, I don't know if he has another Phantasmagoria. He's cast a lot. He might have 1 more. With another Phantasmagoria and Demon Blade combo, you can route off both these Iron Guts and the Noblars and Payback Riders, which would leave us just with a healthy Iron Gut and a healthy Ogre Paymaster. I don't know if that's enough. Riders of Mighty Serpent are running out of ammunition, but after that, they're pretty bad melee combatants compared to Iron Guts, of course. And Azazel hasn't been impressing me recently in the combat department. There goes 1 Iron Gut. The other Iron Guts are charging in. Paymaster's still getting some damage out. Pleasure Seekers are getting low. The Ogres would love to get that thing to Demonic Instability Crumble once and for all and stop chasing their stuff, stop healing ever so slowly off of their misery. Balance power is slightly in Slaanesh's favor yet again. The Riders of Mighty Serpent are continuing to fire in, and the Iron Guts rally around the Ogre Paymaster as they fall back to the point, deciding they don't want to chase Slaanesh off into the distance. Incredibly Wounded Pleasure Seeker, like we said, is healing, but Incredibly Wounded Pleasure Seeker, almost full HP-ish. Riders of the Mighty Serpent, who are close to out of ammo, full HP-ish. Azazel probably doesn't have many Winds of Magic left, versus just under half health Iron Gut, just above half health Ogre Paymaster. Do the Ogres have another meat feast in the pocket? That could keep them in this game. Otherwise, it's looking a little bleak. Not unwinnable, but a little bleak, as the Pleasure Seekers are showing up to the party. Riders of the Mighty Serpent, 1 volley of ammunition left. The other skirmish cavalry almost routed, but they've rallied. 6 ammunition left on them, but it doesn't look like we're waiting for that. In comes a Phantasmagoria plus a Cash Cascade, so the leadership debuffs warring, but the net is real. Azazel diving in is real. There goes the Iron Guts in a beautiful sandwich from Slaanesh. They are gone. Ogre Paymaster's down to half HP, and I don't think he will be lasting very long at all. Shidoku manages to win 2 out of 3 games. Can he close out the series with a 3-0? We're going to find out in the next game. Well, okay, it's a 3-2. I meant, does he complete the reverse sweep of 3 games in a row? Whoa, the Iron Guts are allowed to rally. That's illegal. That is some criminal behavior by Slaanesh, but they're back in once again to try and rout those guys for another time. Pleasure Seekers here as well. I still think Slaanesh has got it, but that was a bit of a whoopsie dropped ball that the Iron Guts were just allowed to rally on the point with the Ogre Paymaster. They rout yet again. Ogre Paymaster's going down, and army losses will hit. I got spooked in the late game. That was a little spooky. Don't do that. Don't just let them rally for no reason. For Stratgame, his caster got decent value, his Ogre Paymaster didn't, but he is more supportive, so I guess that's okay. Ogre Bulls did fine. Iron Guts did overall quite a good job. Flingers did a good job. Blood Vultures did a solid job. For Shidoku, Azazel got more picks that time. Still not a lot of damage value from him, but he was crucial in a couple of big breaks. Hellstriders did a good job. Pleasure Seekers, 1 did fantastically. The other one got shut down super quickly, and Skirmish Cav did nicely. GG's. See you in game 5. They flipped it on me. All right, Shidoku is on the left with the Greenskins, because Strat... I was getting confused as I was loading up, because I'm like, wait, Strat played Greenskins game like 1. How is he playing Greenskins? He's not. Shidoku sent in this replay, which that's been a little messy here and there, so I don't necessarily know if that means anything. Strat's on the Skaven. Skaven have not been having a good winning record or popularity record in the Warhammer World Championship. Not a lot of people playing them. We'll see if Strat can get a win with 2 Warp Grinders. I am scared. I am confused. I am alarmed. I am nervous. 4 Poisonman Globes, 2 Warp Grinders, a bunch of Rat Ogres, Clan Rat Spears with the Clan Rat Shield frontline, and then Ikit Claw with Flensing Ruin. We do have dogs in the back. On the other side for Shidoku and his Greenskins, Goblin Spear frontline, Day Peak Loons front as well. Some Savage Orcs, a Night Goblin Big Boss with his Squig Summon, Ruglin's Armored Orcs, Stone Trolls, Hammer of Gork, another Rock Lobber, Durkid Squig Hoppers, and Azhag. Good God, how many different units are you going to take for me to rattle out, man? Azhag on his mount has Spirit Leech and Purple Sun. Okay. I don't love the Greenskin build versus Skaven. I usually pick Greenskins as my Skaven counter. I tend to go Azhag on foot with Doom and Darkness, and then a metric shit ton of Trolls, including the Swamp Things for their terror, and then Chariots and stuff, and you just roll over the Skaven lines and cause as much terror and panic as possible on the advance. So this is different than how I do it, but Strat's build is also very different than how I play Skaven in this matchup. So I think his double Warp Grinder was kind of to predict that sort of thing, and this slow infantry style might actually favor Shidoku, because then the Warp Grinders don't have anything to net, really. I don't know. Early game's going just fine, though, for this Skaven. The Poisonwind Globes are doing an insane amount of damage to the Goblins, and Shidoku seems to realize that and is now kind of advancing in a bit of a broken advance, but yeah, you don't really want to play shooty shoots with the Skaven, so Shidoku's starting to get in there now. Clan Rats are going to take some serious friendly fire, as the Globes were aiming at the Savage Orcs and have almost hit them with nothing. Oh God, that is all friendly fire from the Skaven side. Okay. Poison Globes having a bad time of that one. Whoopsie. Savage Orc Boar Boys getting pushed away by Rat Ogres paired up with Clan Rat Spears as other Rat Ogres join the fight. And now the globes can't possibly hit their friends, so maybe they'll actually start to get something done. A purple sun comes through the Skaven lines. If it goes to the right, it will do a ton of damage. I mean, it's doing a ton of damage already. And the Skaven front line is in disarray. Ikit has hit Flensing Ruin onto Azhag, and in the back line, Rat Ogres and Wolf Rats were chasing the Savage Orc Boar Boys who just kept retreating, and then Strat was like, fine, I'll hit your back line, screw it. You can't run forever. It looks like the Savage Orc Boar Boys finally did have to turn and stand, and now they're stuck fighting on top of Rat Ogres and Spears, which they don't like. Squig Herd summon from the Night Goblin Big Boss is going to chase Poison Globes around, get a decent amount of damage, and probably rout them once as the Warp Grinders net the Night Goblin Big Boss in place, get a little bit of damage onto him. Greenskins are ahead on the balance powerhouse, however, as the Skaven are just routing in all directions. Azhag and some Savage Orcs are closing in on Ikit Claw, and the Warp Grinders have had a hard time getting much value. Greenskin infantry continue to pile in. They have taken so much damage already, but Shidoku took a ridiculous amount of infantry, so he has plenty to sacrifice to the Forges of War. Goblins getting close to routing. Savage Orc Boar Boys did, but the Rat Ogres also ran away. Clan Rat Spears backing off from the Goblins, don't want to finish that fight. I think he's trying to get his forces around to shut down the Hammer of Gork and to get onto Ruglin's Armored Orcs and such, but yeah, the Rat Ogres are just going to rout. Warp Grinders losing in melee to the Ruglin's Armored Orcs. No surprises here. And Ikit is running away from Azhag. Balance of power is slightly against the Skaven. Now, the Skaven have withstood the Greenskins Squig summon, so their globes do have a lot less pressure on them. And another piece of copium is Double Goblin Rocklobber is not a ton of balance of power, but it is balance of power that is more easily knocked out than other things as your Rat Ogres, Dogs, and Spears get onto it. Though I don't know what this clump is about. The Wolf Rats and Clan Rat Spears disengaged from those Goblins earlier. They didn't want to finish them off because I thought they were trying to loop around to the Goblin Rocklobbers, but then they just re-engaged in those Goblins. So I'm not really sure what's been going on this flank. I do think there's some confusion about what they want to do, but Strat is coming back into this game, knocks down the Hammer of Gork. The balance of power goes back to 50-50-ish, and Ruglin's Armored Orcs in a lot of trouble as the Wolf Rats and Rat Ogres have teamed up on them. So some good plays there. We do have an Orc Arbor Boy and a regular Goblin Rocklobber turning to fire over onto this side, but it is solid progress to take out both those regiments for now, and the balance of power shows it. Elsewhere, the Greenskins are running out of momentum. The Skaven are also running out of momentum in the melee, but they didn't really have too much to begin with, to be honest. Azhag chasing down Ikit. Azhag has much superior speed, and he is going to pivot real quick to deal with these Poison Wind Globes so that his Savage Orc Boar Boys can re-enter the fight without taking half their remaining HP from one globe volley. Meanwhile, Clan Rat Spears have chased off the Savage Orcs, but this is another one of those times they're going past the Goblin Rocklobber. I would like them to just make a pit stop and kill off that thing so it doesn't keep firing at them. Azhag hits Ikit Claw with the Spirit Leech. I'm sure Ikit is winding up another Flensing Ruin for the Greenskin Lord. Meanwhile, Poison Wind Globes push the Savage Orcs away from Rat Ogres, and Stone Trolls push the globes away from everybody else. Night Goblin Big Boss getting dangerously close to routing despite being nearly full HP near routing Rat Ogres, so that's a little concerning. If Azhag dies, then that Night Goblin Big Boss apparently is just going to be worthless. Globes trying to meet the moment. Looks like they don't have attack orders right now. They have movement orders? Oh, they do have attack orders. They're trying to throw out the Savage Orc Boar Boys real quick before they get routed off. Ikit throws out a brass orb to help them with those spears, so each side trying to help each other, but Ikit has not been able to get off another Flensing Ruin onto Azhag, and he has been just on the run. Fortunately for him, Azhag is on a Wyvern, not a Dragon, because a Dragon has good charge animations that would just be hitting Ikit right now. A Wyvern does not. A Shidoku, that's crazy. That's hilarious. Flensing Ruin Overcast does hit him, so great cast from Ikit Claw, whatever, yada yada. But the Rat Ogres and Spears were about to wrap him up, but since he was not attacking Ikit Claw, he was technically not in combat and just flies at the last second. But now he's going to dive in onto Ikit, and Strat again needs to pull his Rat Ogres over to help out just a little bit more. The Skaven are reforming lines around the point. They have the damage, they have the balance of power lead for just a moment, and I think both Rocklobbas are finally offline. Yes. And the Flensing Ruin Overcast is still doing a lot of damage to Azhag. 2 seconds left on that as a Spirit Leech also taxes Ikit Claw. I love how both Lords, like, HP bars percentage-wise have been the same all game, as Flensing Ruins and Spirit Leeches are just traded. Dogs and Rat Ogres pulled back into Azhag to provide Ikit with a little bit of peel, and any damage you can put on Azhag is good at this point, as Ikit might want to loop up and deal with those Orc Arbor Boys. Meanwhile, the healthiest Stone Troll is a decent problem in the late game for this Skaven. We do have some Goblin Spears that are getting bombed back to the Stone Ages. And Night Goblin Big Boss is holding against some Rat Ogres. Skaven have captured the point since the start of the game, and Azhag routs in a disaster for the Greenskins. Usually his leadership is quite good, but he didn't get back here. Or he has 2 different auras that give a little bit of leadership that I'll usually take at least one or the other to make him more heroic. But that could be the game for the Skaven. Azhag routing was a bit of a surprise. The Greenskins needed his terror. They needed his Spirit Leeches to close this game out. 1 or 2 more Spirit Leeches on Ikit, and Ikit was donezo. But there goes Azhag, and there goes the game. Stratgame clutching it out when it matters. Nice 2-0 lead, but then it went to game 5. And he does win out in the end. I know the top bar was confusing. The first 4 games where Stratgame was on the left, Shidoku was on the right, but the final game they flip-flopped. Stratgame is on the Skaven, and the Skaven lead him to victory. He will advance to the top 16. Congratulations, sir. I was rooting for you. Shidoku made it a hell of a series. Good to see you, but you gotta root for my boy. Gotta root for my boy. Subscribe, yes.